We're starting our third lesson in geometry. Geometry. Studied lines and we've studied angles, and today we're talking about polygons and circles. And if you're looking at this screen behind the title cards, you probably recognize some polygons and circles already, and maybe you have some idea of what it is that we're going to be talking about today. Let's go on to the next screen and discover more about polygons and circles. A polygon, get that word up here again, polygon, poly I think is a prefix meaning many. A polygon is any figure that is closed. A figure that's closed, it's a figure that's flat, and a figure that has straight sides. So those are three things that we're looking at when we talk about polygons. It's closed, it's flat, and it has straight sides. Let's take a look at that first word, closed. Closed. Here's a figure, but it isn't closed. You can see that here's an open end on this side right here. It has to have completely closed in space. So that's a closed figure. That is a closed figure. Here's a closed figure too, but that is not a polygon because we said the polygons have to have straight sides. This character right here then must be that other thing that we had talked about at the beginning on our first title card called, of course, a circle. So a circle is not considered a polygon. It has to have closed sides. It has to be flat, and everything, of course, that I draw on this smartboard is going to be flat. Later in our study of geometry, we're going to be looking at some figures that are three-dimensional, and polygons are not three-dimensional. And you take a look at this last figure I drew. This one has kind of a curved side right there, so I'd probably not consider this a polygon either. A polygon is closed, flat, and has straight sides. Another term I'm going to introduce you to besides polygon is quadrilateral. Quad, that sounds like something that might come in fours. Quad, maybe quarter or quart, all kind of start with that Q-U-A. Quadrilateral. Lateral. Quadrilateral. A quadrilateral is a polygon, and remember polygons are closed, flat figures with straight sides. A quadrilateral is a polygon that has four sides. A polygon with four sides, and of course the sides will have to be straight. A polygon with four sides. I bet you know some polygons already. Let's see here. I think you probably know this polygon right here. Maybe you recognize that as, or this quadrilateral, I should say. This quadrilateral we know as a rectangle. This quadrilateral, maybe you recognize it as a square. Here's another quadrilateral. Maybe you recognize that one as a trapezoid. Oops, I better close that up. Well, to understand this quadrilateral a bit more, let's go on to the next slide. Here I've got a slide of a cookie jar, and if you're wondering about the word quadrilateral, how can, I know that that is called a square, but now you're telling me it has another name? Well, if we take a look at these cookies here on the side, and let's take a look at this set of cookies right here. I know that those are chocolate chip cookies, and if we take a look at this set of cookies over here, oh, those look like peanut butter cookies. I never did like those very well. And then this last one, let's look at this last one over here. This set here, I think these are called monster cookies. I think they probably have some oatmeal in them or something like that. But every one of these cookies, they can go into the cookie jar. So I'm going to put those peanut butter or those chocolate chip cookies in there. I'm going to put these peanut butter cookies in there, and I'm also going to put these monster cookies in the cookie jar. Well, now what does that have to do with quadrilaterals anyway, Mr. F? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a look at this. We changed the cookie jar now to say quadrilateral. You'll see I changed the label on there. And oh, here's my cookies on the other side, and now I've got my chocolate chip cookies. I put a square on there, or the rectangle I put over the top of the peanut butter cookies. And then there's this character. Some of you might like to call it a diamond, but it's actually, no, it's called a rhombus. And I've put that over those monster cookies. And I know that I can put that in this cookie jar. Oh, a square is a rectangle, or a square is a quadrilateral. A rectangle is a quadrilateral. I have a hard time saying that. And a rhombus is also called a quadrilateral. So we know that we've got at least 3 of those characters that are called quadrilaterals. And again, a quadrilateral is any polygon with 4 straight sides. Well, there may be more than the 3 that we put in that jar. And I'm thinking maybe that one that we drew before, that this is a trapezoid. And oh yes, I could put that in this quadrilateral cookie jar too. So I'm just going to go ahead and put him in there. Oops, he wants to be on the outside. Well, we know that that one actually goes in that quadrilateral jar too. So a quadrilateral 4-sided polygon. On this screen, there's many polygons that you have already heard of before, or seen before, or talked about before. We're taking a minute now just to reacquaint ourselves and make sure that we're understanding which name goes with each one of these figures. So if we take a look at that first green figure, we see that, oh yes, that I remember, that one is called the rectangle. And then there's our friend, the triangle, maybe one of the first figures you learned to make as a child. The next one we know, oh, that one is called the square. And this next one, I may have to count the sides to figure this one out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, that one that has 6 sides is called the hexagon. This one over here, we had talked about that guy already, and that one is called a trapezoid. This one here, I'm going to count the sides in this one too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that reminds me of our lesson in religion about the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible. That's called the pentagon. And this one here has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 straight sides. And oh, look at that one. That label is already there. The 8 side would be the octagon, like an octopus, 8 legs. And then the last one here is our friend, the rhombus. Now, one thing about the rhombus is that each of these sides are all the same length. It's similar to a square. All the sides are the same length on a square. The rhombus is that way too. Don't be confused about the rhombus. There's other characters that like to identify themselves as a rhombus. But remember, rhombus has 4 sides all in the equal length, similar to a square. Now you'll notice that I changed the display of the smartboard here, and I've got 2 screens at the same time. We just finished with this screen naming these polygons. And now, if you would look in your workbook section on the back of page 113, Polygons and Circles, if you flip that to the back side, there's a chart that looks like this one. And we're going to have you fill in the name of the figure, and then the number of sides, the number of vertices, the number of angles, and then identify whether or not it's a quadrilateral. So the first thing we're going to do is just drag some of these names over into our chart. Now, of course, you won't be able to drag. You're going to actually have to take your pencil and write them in there. But I'm going to start with this rectangle and put that in right here. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and write the name rectangle on your chart, and you can just go ahead and stop and pause this and take as much time as you need to get these in place. And then I'm going to put triangle here. I'll put square in the next. I've got hexagon. I've got trapezoid. I've got our pentagon here, our octagon with 8 straight sides, and then our friend, the rhombus, with 4 equal sides. Take a moment now and go ahead and fill in your chart. And then after you've got that finished, we'll go in and fill in the next column. Here we go now, number of sides on each of these. Well, I remember over here, this one was called the rectangle, and if I count the sides, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this box, under the number of sides, I'll just write the number 4. Now here's an interesting word, the word vertices. The word vertices is any place where two straight lines come together. That's called a vertices, or vertex. Actually, it's called a vertex. If there's more than one vertex, like this is a vertex right here, it's kind of like mouse and mice. They changed the word a bit, or child and children. This is a vertex. If I've got another vertex, I've got a straight line, and another straight line, and another straight line, and it can be more than one straight line that comes together. And also when we start to talk about solid figures, it's going to be where the edges come together. But here is another vertex. So I've got a vertex here and a vertex here. So I've got two of those, and if we've got more than one vertex, we call those vertices. So we're going to be looking at where the number of vertices on a figure. Well, let's go back to the rectangle. I'm going back to this one over here, the rectangle, and here's where two lines come together, and two lines come together, and two lines come together, and two lines. So it looks like there's 4 vertices, and an angle is where any two straight sides come together, and there's one here. I want to change colors so that we can maybe see here. Here's an angle, here's an angle, here's an angle, and here's an angle. I remember an angle is where we have two rays, and there were 4 angles there. And is it a quadrilateral? Well, let me think now. A quadrilateral is a polygon. A polygon. Oh, a polygon is a flat figure. Yes, it's flat. It's got to be closed. Yes, it's all closed in. It has straight sides. Oh, yes, it's a polygon. And does it have 4 straight sides? Yes, it does. So then I'll just write the word yes right here. Well, I'm going to ask you to go ahead with the rest of the chart and fill that in on your own. You take a look at the next one, the triangle. Count the number of sides, count the vertices, and the vertices, of course, are the places where 2 or more straight sides come together, number of angles, and then identify yes or no. Is it a quadrilateral? We're going on now after you've got your chart completely filled out. Notice, of course, mine is still empty because I'd like to have you do the work for yourself and not to copy from mine. But you're going to be using your completed chart now and the dot paper that you'll find after page 113 of Polygons and Circles. And I'm going to ask you to draw each of the figures listed on your chart and draw them with the correct number of sides, vertices, and angles, and I'll take a look at those tomorrow. So I want to do the first one with you, the rectangle, and it says that it's got 4 sides. So let's see. And if I want to refer back to what that rectangle looks like, let's see, it's got 4 straight sides, and 2 of the sides maybe longer than the other 2 sides. So there's my rectangle. Now go ahead and finish drawing the 7 other figures on your chart. Now that you've got your dot paper finished with and you've drawn all of the 8 different figures, we have a little exercise on answering some questions on page 113 of your workbook. And if you're using the textbook, I would like to draw your attention to that. It always says on the bottom of that workbook page where you can find information on the lesson of the day. So if you had any confusion about anything, if you want to go back and take a look at something within your textbook, go back to those pages and take a look. I think it'd be particularly helpful if you looked at page 308 for the 8 different figures there. They have them drawn out. That's very interesting for you to look at that. Now then, let's take a look at your lesson called Polygons and Circles on page 113. At the top of the paper, remember we talked about polygons and we talked about circles. We said the polygon was any closed flat figure with straight sides. We also talked about the word vertex. Each one of these places where a straight side comes together is a vertex. If there's more than one vertex, it's called a vertice. Let's look at the instructions for the first set. Here it says, write the number of sides and the vertices for each. How many sides does a circle have? How many vertices? And so on, up to number 8, number of sides and vertices. Number 9 through 12, it asks, is each figure a polygon? You can write the word yes or no. Is it a polygon? Yes, it has straight sides. It's closed. It is a flat figure. No, it doesn't have straight sides. Or no, it's not closed. Or no, it is not flat. So number 9 through 12, is it a polygon? And number 13 and 14, it asks you to draw a polygon, and we did that already on dot paper, so you'll be in good shape for that. Number 13, a 4-sided polygon, and then of course the question is how many vertices. And number 14, a figure with 6 vertices. Oh, that's interesting. You'll have to think about that for half a second and then draw that figure. And then it asks you how many sides that figure has. So good luck with page 113 of Polygons and Circles. I'm looking forward to seeing your work and exploring the next lesson with you.